Bienvenidos de nuevo a Oportunidades en Grecia, el podcast en el que tratamos de acercar las oportunidades en el marco de la internacionalización, de la exportación, la inversión y la captación de financiación que el país presenta para la empresa española. Welcome again to Oportunidades en Grecia, the podcast where we try to get business opportunities regarding exports and investments in the country, Greece, closer to Spanish companies. Today, in our 15th episode, we'll talk about beverages and more specifically about wine, a promising sector that hasn't yet delivered, at least for Spanish exporters. There are great opportunities in the future. The forecast is of a growth of 10% in the next 3 years for beverages, growth of 15% in the next 3 years for wine. And we have with us a fantastic speaker. Let me introduce you to him, Andreas Matthidis. Andreas, how are you? Welcome.
Very well, I'm fine. Thank you very much for the invitation. Muy buenas tardes por esta invitación.
Te estamos nosotros muy agradecidos, Andreas. Thank you so much. Andreas is a very good friend, someone we know in the Economic and Commercial Office of the Embassy for a long time, with whom we have cooperated very many times. And of course, he's a big expert in all that has to do with, I would say, agro-food, specifically beverages, and within beverages in wines. Andreas is the president of the Greek Sommeliers Association and education and development consultant at Carulias, where he is responsible for the training programs related to all the company's wine and spirits portfolio. As I said, we had the pleasure of working with him many times in the past, mostly with wine tastings and pairing food and wine and different experiences, trying to promote Spanish beverages and Spanish wines. Before jumping into the Q&A with Andreas, a couple ideas that I would like to put there on the table. Greece has increased its beverage imports, mainly, but not only, in spirits and wine and mineral water and sparkling water. Greece has a certain potential, I would say, when it comes to wines. It exports wines up to an important amount. Regarding the demand, but of course here Andreas will give us further detail. I think basically when it comes to wines, there is a bigger demand for whites than for reds, and for reds than for rosé. And Spanish wines are well known, and some of the brands are well known, and they can be competitive both in quality and price. But let's go to let's ask the expert. Let's go to get the answers from the expert. I would like to ask you, Andreas, first, how do you see the different participants sort of in this market? What do you think about the evolution, past, present, and future of alcoholic beverages, wine versus beer versus spirits, and the evolution of alcoholic beverages versus non-alcoholic, which also play a role very important in the case of Greece, right? Water, juices, and coffee.
I think that both questions are very much related. So I think that wine mostly has the highest, the bigger development in figures in Greece. And this is, I think, that follows the global trends that have to do with this hygiene mostly, or more healthy, in brackets, beverages. This is not so important as a figure, because the non-alcoholic beverages are very low at the moment. In total, it's not could be more than 1%. Maybe 1% is too much, I say. Maybe 0.5% of the total production of beverages in general. But there is a trend in general, not only in alcohol. It's in sugar. It's in general healthy beverage. This is the trend. On this point of view, this is a global phenomenon that we go for less alcoholic volume, even in wines. If we go back a decade or 2 decades before, we had wines easily more than 14.5-15% of alcohol. Now we see the trend in all markets in the world, even the new world, go for lower percentage in alcohol. That has to do with this connection of more healthy beverage. On the other side, wine is a companion for food. Alcoholic spirits, high-strength spirits, yes, it is a matter of entertainment, but the alcoholic strength is quite high, so I think there is a trend leaving the sector of the spirits and going to wine sector. And even more than that, we go for beer as well. Beer, I cannot say that we do have this ratio in growth as we do have it in wine, but of course the consumption is high in volumes. Don't forget that as your country, our country as well, is a quite warm country. We live the summer, the spring and the autumn in conditions that are very, very much alike to beer. So beer as well is a very important sector. And if I'm going to connect all these sectors, the wine, the spirits and the beer, and I will connect them with the non-alcoholic brands, I easily can say that from the total category of beverages, beer is on top, maybe with a percentage more than 80% of the sector of non-alcoholic goes to beer. Beer is the most developed at the moment for non-alcoholic. It seems to be that a big growth is coming for all the category of non-alcoholics.
Very interesting. That's something that you actually see everywhere, and I can see the evolution in the restaurants, even in the tabernas. You can find non-alcohol beverages almost everywhere nowadays. Something that I think didn't happen years ago. Let me ask you a little bit more about wine. So here I would like to know better what the trends are in the consumer in Greece. How would you place the wine culture in the country, in Greece? Do people rather like young wines or aged wines? And I will ask you afterwards about branding and trends.
Of course, there is a long tradition in Greece for wine, but I can say that this tradition is mostly much connected with traditional way that they were producing wine in the past. So even today, they do produce wines in the houses, in farmhouses or in everywhere, and they do consume that. And at the same time, I think that specifically for bottled wine, we have a long way to go. So there is a tradition that they use bulk wines in here. And this is a kind of a problem, but maybe not so big problem, because now, and specific after the pandemic, all these bulk wines, and mostly because of the recession and at the same time of the higher cost that exists in raw materials, today the bulk wine is not so profitable. So I think that in here there is an opportunity for not only the consumers, but the restaurateurs or the hotel owners to give a turn to bottled wine. Maybe not expensive and premium wine, but there is a good space, a good opportunity to go there in order to consume not bag-in-box, but wine that is bottled, but in a quite low price. I think this could be the next step in order to meet all these conditions that we do have after the pandemic.
And so, I understand this tradition, as you said, because it's traditionally consumed, but a lot of bulk, as you said. And I wanted to ask you, because somebody told us when we were working on the market study, they were telling us a little bit about a trendy consumption. No, people would in some areas drink whatever is trendy. Is there a lot of, let's say, imitation or consumption by imitation, or how much do people mind about brands? Bear in mind, as you said, that there is traditional consumption and bulk. And
if I may add something in the previous question, because it's very important for Greece, we do have in Greece, as probably you do have in Spain as well, a lot hotels that are working with all-inclusive. And this is very important for this kind of trend. This bag-in-box maybe has today almost half volume of the wine that is being consumed in Greece. If you can imagine all islands, all big, huge hotels with all-inclusive status.
I was going to ask about that because Greece receives, and I think this is very important for the audience, this year most probably 35 million people will come to Greece to do tourism, with a population of almost 11 million. And I think the all-inclusive is very important. I haven't
This is a huge sector for Greece. But as I told you before, I think that in there is a great opportunity for bottled wines in low prices to substitute this bag-in-box. And because I know very well that we do import a lot wine in bulk from Spain in order to make in here some private labels, maybe for all-inclusive hotels, maybe in there is a great opportunity because you do have wines that for me, this is very clear that you do have a very good ratio value for money. And this is one of the greatest benefits you do have in Spain. But we'll go after for that.
But you know a lot about our wines. You were helping us with the wine tastings probably in that period from 13 to 2018. You tasted, I don't know, maybe 100 different wines at least with us.
Yeah,
from
minimum,
Spain.
Minimum.
Easy.
Yes,
easy.
So the trends today for Greece. I think that of course white wine is the majority of the wine that is being consumed in Greece. As we're talking about the new profile or the average profile that the consumer have, and specifically young generations, of course they are going for lower alcohol in any case, but they do like some residual sugar, some sweetness in the wine. And if this sweetness is quite equilibrated with some nice acidity, so there's a balance, not to be quite fluffy because it's only sweet, I think that this is something that explains quite many things, that we do have high consumption in Greece for example, sparkling wine, which is Moscato d'Asti. And this is the trend. It's what the palate of the Greeks, and specifically young generation, they go to. Now, I'm not fan of that, but this is a trend. This is the market. These are the consumers.
But it is what I wanted to ask you. Precisely, right, for the trends and how, when I was asked about the penetration of Spanish wines, we always seem to have the same problem, which is trying to get a part of the white wine. Big stake of the pie, right? Because even if there are 35 million people that come here to do tourism, I think most of them want to have the Greek experience. So they end up drinking Greek-alike wines. So most probably whites, rosé, some sparkling, which is what is usually offered, I would say.
And don't forget that there are some culture in other countries, like Germany, for example, they do like and asking for even reds with residual sugar. So some sweetness in reds as well, without tannic profile, easy to drink. There is a trend. We're talking about healthy beverages that lower the sugar content, but in here we see that some sugar or residual sugar in the wine probably is a privilege.
Which I actually think it comes along also with wines that you could eventually drink a bit cooler, right?
Yeah, sure.
Whites, sparkling.
Sure.
You can be cooler, as you said, and I think it's very thoughtful. Greece is a place where you can have quite some heat, and for some long period, I would say from May till October,
easily to October
for the summer season. So let's move on and let's talk a bit about international wines. I think here the positions of the main exporters have always been the same ones, the ranking, since I remember at least when I came here the first time, 2013. So France is the first one, then Italy, then Spain, then Germany. I think you just gave us some of the clues.
Yep.
Sweetness, sparkling, whites, maybe it's some of the clues. I don't know if that's the case of France, but why do you think this is the ranking, and what's the future in could the future in consumption trends have an effect on that ranking?
You're absolutely right. I think that the dominant importer as a country in Greece is France. This is maybe goes back as history, because as the first importers started introducing international wines in Greece, they focused on the French wine. And because French wine has a very nice reputation, globally speaking, it's supposed to be very quality wine, very expressive as a specific zone or variety that is coming from. I think that this is what is that has been built for many decades here in Greece. So I could say that we do have two different or three different speeds. I think that in the top speed we do have France with premium wines in general, even though there are some bulk wines or cheap wines, not bulk, cheap wines, better saying that always they do have the reputation, the image of premium wine. Then I go to the other side, the opposite side, talking about Chile. Chile is very much spread throughout Greece because of the cheap wine that has. So the image and the reputation of Chilean wines is that it's a good wine, but always cheap and affordable. Now in the middle, this is the third speed, there is a space for all other countries. I think that Italy and Spain, they should focus in there, in between. And of course for Spain, because I said that before as well, because there is some connection with bulk imported wine, I think that Spain should focus on both types of wine. This one that is always connected, which is the bulk wine that's coming in Greece, even bottled or in trucks, no matter what, but for low price wines, there is, of course, an opportunity even more in there for developing Greece, even for the hotels, for all-inclusives or for private labels. Huge work in there. But at the same time, I think that, as I told you before, you do have a very good quality versus price value wines. So you should find maybe another way to reach the market and make a specific target of consumers or importers mostly in order to work with Spain and import all this kind of wines.
I was actually in the fair lately, I think a month ago or so, and I met some of the main distributors, and they kept telling me that there is a space for now they are rebuilding their portfolios, and now there's space for new wines, and that they thought there could be a space for new wines. So more of new, as we call denominaciones de origen, that are not well known yet here, and that we could present, promote, and so on and so forth. So that there is probably, as you said, business to be done when it comes to the all-inclusive bottle, etc., but also for the top-notch or higher added value, let's say, wines and wineries, right?
I think that now for Greece this is very challenging, but it's very challenging as well for the wine producers from other countries, because Greece fortunately goes well under crisis, because we had very difficult years and the consumption was truly very low. Very hopefully, and it was very nice, as we didn't expect that in Greece, the bottled wine had a very good stand during the pandemic. And this is a very good note for the future of consumption, or in general the perception of the bottled wine for Greece. Don't forget that at the same time, the majority of people that they consume wine in Greece, specifically from May to October, they're not Greeks. They're foreigners. So they do have a culture. They do know what exactly they want. So they're looking, yes, for Greek varietals and Greek wines, but they do have in mind, of course, what are their likes or dislikes. So I think, and specifically for that, in Greece and in connection with the foreigners we do have, the visitors we have, I think sparkling wine as well is very interesting. Of course, the dominant in this category, in this sector, is Prosecco, by far, because it's cheaper, easier to taste, easier with lower alcohol, easier to drink in general, or to combine. Don't forget as well that we are living in the fashion of spirits. In order to make a spritz, normally you use Prosecco as well. So the dominant player for sparkling wines is Prosecco. Again with Moscato d'Asti because of the sweetness, but again fruitiness, acidity, sweetness, sparkliness. Champagne is very well spread in premium markets of Greece, in premium restaurants and hotels, of course, but there is a lot of space, and I know that because we do have in our portfolio a Spanish cava, and we see that the price, the volume price ratio, it's amazing.
Do you think, because that's something that I also have heard from some distributors, do you think that it's well known? We talk about Spanish cavas. Are they well known in the market? Is there a knowledge of what a Spanish cava is with respect to what other alternatives from other countries are?
I think that slowly is getting a better reputation, or they know what the cava is. But I'm saying that again, that don't forget that consumers, visitors know very well what cava is, and specifically that is being made with one of the most difficult winemaking methods in order to be made, and the price is many times less than a Prosecco. This is amazing. So this is an opportunity to me for the Spanish market and the producers of cava. Great opportunity, but this has to be promoted.
We'll get to that point just in a couple minutes. Let me ask you, because you put out there you mentioned COVID and the effects of COVID, and I think that changed somehow the way the wine was obviously distributed, right? Off-trade versus on-trade. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? How much people, off-trade and on-trade, and a little bit about e-commerce, if it plays a role already in the market?
Yes, by far the sector of on-premise, on-trade is higher than off-premise. I think that I'm positive, or not. I think that it's almost a little above than 60%. So almost less than 40% the off-premise, and e-commerce in Greece is still quite low, but developing. After COVID, because there was the matter of habit that was developed for Greeks in order to go to e-commerce, specifically wines.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I think the way we behave socially in the southern part of the continent is very similar, and we all like to socialize.
Exactly.
And we do that many times through having a glass of wine, a beer, doing that on the premises of a distributor of the products. Let's go now to promotion. As you know, because you have helped us for a long time, we've been working on promoting Spanish wines in the country. What do you think? What could we do different? What should we keep doing, if any? One of my questions is, yes, we have done wine tastings. Can we actually introduce people to Spanish wines by themselves, or shall we pair those with Spanish food? Bearing in mind that we still don't have many Spanish restaurants in the most important cities of the country.
As importance, I can say that I would not focus on culinary. I will not, because I think that Spain and Greece, they do have Mediterranean food. So I believe that all portfolio of wines that Spain produces in different PDO regions, I think that it's very, very easily connected with the Mediterranean food, where Greece exists as well. I said that we had very difficult years, specifically from 2010 up to 2020, when pandemic came, with the crisis, economic and financial crisis we did have in Greece. But now we're very happy to see that we're coming back, and the economy goes much better. So there is a development. We see that not only new restaurants or new kind of bistros or wine bars are being established slowly. The thing is that there is a different approach of differentiation. So this is as well an opportunity. And this is the best time for me for other wines except the Greek ones, because they're looking for that. They cannot stay only to Greek wines. They are not very sophisticated, all the professionals that are working with wines in general, but still the number goes much higher. I can say that because I'm teaching in the school. You know that I'm teaching the WSET, and we see that many consumers, not professionals, follow the lessons. So they have a need to develop themselves, specifically in wine culture. So they're looking for differentiation. This is an opportunity to me. And I think that all these events we had together, I think that they were very well focused. It was very quality the way we had the process. All the invitations you sent to all related people, importers or consumers or sommeliers. If I would say something about that, I could say that 100% I would saying that you have to continue with this. You have to continue this process, because it's a very qualitative process. And I think that maybe you should think that maybe to expand it not only in Athens, to go to make it in Thessaloniki or in Crete, somewhere that there is an audience to hear. It's not for all of them, but there is an opportunity in there. And when they see the prices, and I'm insisting on that, Spanish wines are very, very balanced in value for money aspect. This is very important. The quality is very high, so they do not know. Many of them, not this target of group, because it's another target of group. We're not talking about importers of bulk wine because they need to do it just a private label. No, this is the market. This is the on-trade market. This is the real market. So they have to be different from next wine bar. So they should have maybe some different wines from different PDO regions, from totally different varietals. That makes a difference. And today, even the foreigners, the visitors that are coming in Greece, they are looking for something different. Not always from the same things that we do see everywhere. So I think that these two different kind of speeds for Spanish wine, specifically for Greece, I would never say that leave the bulk wine. No. You are a huge country, you have a huge volumes, always there are some needs, but I think that you should separate the sectors, you should work in an absolutely different way, and you have to focus on premiumization, the premium wines in a style that it's very close to the real decision maker. And that was, I think, on these events we organized together.
Yes. I totally see the point. Yeah, clearly, as you said, there's been a big change in Greece from the 2010s to 2020s. Very hard crisis in 2010s, 2010s. So limited capacity to pay for wine, for premium brands.
May I add something?
Yes, of course.
The percent of imported wine in Greece today,
it is extremely low. You just have to check the figures.
Yes, in total.
Mm.
So, with so many visitors we do have, there is a great opportunity, not only for the foreigners, but for the Greeks as well.
Okay, well, I think you Andrea helped us understand many of the gray zones of the market, beverages and wine specifically. I take many ideas. Healthy wines, you mentioned. I think that's the name of
healthy
the game.
Beverages in
Healthy beverages, and also in the case of wine. So reduce amount of alcohol if possible. You talked about bulk bottled wine, low prices but with quality, and all that market of tourism, all inclusive, and so on and so forth. You mentioned something about the local demand, which is very important. I wrote down sweetness and acidity. I think those are things that people would like to find in the wines they actually...
Easy to drink.
They're easy to drink. They're more summery, I would say.
For young generations.
Drinks for young generations. And then you talk about those three speeds that I found very interesting, right? You mentioned about the high premium wines. You talked about just on the price, wines that are sold mainly on the price. And then a big space in between for producers that could produce quantity and quality, and that could brand their wines. I take it that the wines from a certain denominación de origen could have a long run in the market. You talked about whites, you talked about sparkling, and many other notions that I think are going to be of great interest for our audience. And you talked about the great opportunity that is happening right now, these days, with respect to not only that huge amount of tourists that come here with international appeals for wines, but also for Greeks that want to try different things that you're seeing precisely in your class, in your courses. I thank you a lot, Andreas. Yes.
If I may have one more point specifically, last question we have about promotion and everything.
Yes.
I believe that you should work somehow how to change the reputation or the image, the perspective of Greeks for the Spanish wine, which is very much associated with sangria. This is not a good thing for Greek decision makers. We do consume a lot of sangria in Greece, but in their brain, Spain is there, sangria.
I see.
This is very important. This is quite strategical, I'm telling you, and I think that this is truly very important for this kind of market you need to work.
Well, I think that you're right. It's very good to help brand in different directions the Spanish wines, to do some promotion of the sorts that the one we did before or something alike. As I said, I thank you very much, Andreas. Thanks for coming. Muchas gracias por venir. Una suerte tenerte aquí con nosotros.
Muchas gracias por la invitación. Estoy muy orgulloso que tenemos esta relación, que hemos trabajado mucho por el vino español, pero también estoy muy orgulloso por la relación que tenemos nosotros. Muchísimas gracias.
Estupendo, Andrea. Mil gracias. Y nosotros nos vemos de nuevo pronto en Oportunidades en Grecia. Todavía hay mucho por conocer. Tenemos que hablar de digitalización, de financiación de multilaterales, de energías renovables. Hasta pronto.
Hasta pronto.